What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Bucks University. I am Nathan Marzion, joined as always by Stev, aka Bucks Breakdown. You can follow him on Twitter at Bucks_Breakdown, myself at Nathan Marzion, the podcast at BucksU_pod. May 21st, we are officially into draft season and into looking at these prospects and figuring out who we really want the Bucks to take. I know I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter from various people, various opinions about who the Bucks should be focusing on and different players that guys seem to like, guys seem to not like, based on, we saw the combine numbers and stuff, and that made a difference in people's opinion. But I feel like now is when people start to form their opinions, and then there's a little bit of a lull period, a couple weeks, in the early June. And then as it gets closer to later June and the week before the draft, it starts to pick up again. But right now, definitely, especially the fan bases that are out of the playoffs and stuff and our board, it's just like, hey, we're looking at draft prospects. So that's where we're at. But we're going to go through, every week for the next, so we got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. We're going to go through 2 to 3 guys each week on a podcast that are in the Bucks range of who they could pick. So we'll cover 10 to 15 guys that, are the most likely guys that they could end up selecting with the 10th pick, and just give our thoughts on them, give an overview of them and kind of their strengths and weaknesses and what we think and how we would feel about selecting those guys. Before we get into our 2 guys today, Bucks trivia for you. This is a tough one. This is a random one. It's a tough one.
That's what I like.
So it's May 21st. Tell me when the last time the Bucks played on May 21st was. Exactly May 21st.
Okay. So I'm trying to think like late second round or very early Eastern Conference Finals. I would have to say, is it like Game 6 Boston series?
No. Close. That was, I think, it's sad that I know the exact date. It was May 11th.
Okay. Wow. So it's been a minute then.
Yeah, it has. Actually, I'm sorry. Game 6 was May 13th, but yes, whatever.
May 13th.
Yeah. But I'll give you one more guess. I'll say this. It's going to give it away. I can't give it away.
So, I had to go all the way back to that Toronto series because the championship year, the dates were thrown off.
Yes, Toronto series. What game do you think?
Oh, man.
I'll give you a hint. You lost the game. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah,
you lost the game.
Was it Game 3, dude?
It was Game 4. Game 3 was May 19th. Game 4 was the 21st. And I remember that series. So my birthday is May 27th, and Game 7 was lined up to be on my birthday. So I kind of, as we got to like Game 5, I'm thinking, man, this could end up being Game 7 on my birthday. Like, this is crazy. And obviously didn't end up coming to fruition. But yeah, sorry to bring up bad memories, but
that's a rough one, bro.
Yeah. Hey, someone posted today. They were like, I think the question was, greatest what if moments in NBA history, and then someone posted the Bucks Raptors Game 3.
Yeah, that's the one I always think of, that one first. Like that was the game to wrap up the series.
And obviously at the time, everyone was like, "Oh, we're fine." We played like shit and still nearly beat them, and then quickly realized, wait, we're not fine. But it is crazy. Okay. Do you think there's any chance? So. And I mean, likely not, because going down 3-0 takes the wind out of your sails and of the other team and everything. So, it's very unlikely. If we had won that game, very likely we would have moved on. But, the way they were able to adjust and just dominate us for the next 4 games, is there any way that even if we win that Game 3, we end up losing in 7? Like, is there any possibility of us being the only team to blow a 3-0 lead?
You would hope not. But I don't know, if it was any team, it might have been that one, right? There was,
because we didn't adjust, we didn't, and as soon as we saw the wall and kind of, Giannis wasn't quite ready for that.
That team came out after that, okay, now Bledsoe stinks, no one else is ready for the moment. It was, yeah, all the deficiencies like came out right then and there after that game.
So I at least think there's a chance that even with the 3-0 lead there, it could have at least gotten interesting because I mean,
That's fair. That's fair.
I think the way that series just shifted and the coaching mismatch and that at that time, like that was prime Nick Nurse. And obviously Bud's had his issues in playoff series with adjusting and it was like, they just had no answers. So I don't know. I think there's at least a chance, but anyways,
Okay.
again, it doesn't matter. We won in 2021. So who cares about that? So, all right, let's get into it. We got two guys today. We got my guy and we got your guy.
Yes, sir.
We're starting with my guy. And to be clear, we both like both of these guys, but one of them is a guy that I've been high on all year and kind of, declared him as one of my guys. And then one of them is the same for you. But we'll start with my guy. It is Labaron Philon, guard from Alabama. So he is a 6'3" guard, has a 6'6" wingspan, 175 pounds, 20 years old. And I'll just give some stats really quick. So this past season averaged 22 points, 5 assists per game, 50% from the field, 40% from three, 80% from the line. Made a big leap in his sophomore year after being more of a secondary option, second to third option in his freshman year. He only averaged 11 points per game his freshman year. Wasn't taking that many shots, just wasn't a focal point of their offense. It was Mark Sears at the time. Then Mark Sears leaves. Philon takes over as the guy. He was in the draft process for at least a little bit last year, I remember, and then came back to school and became the guy. Had a fantastic season, made some big leaps with his on-ball scoring and just overall offensive ability. Jumped from 11 points per game up to 22. Again, the jump up to 5 assists per game, big efficiency jump, went from 45% from the field, 32% from three to 50% from the field, 40% from three. So a big leap in 3-point percentage. And just in my opinion, it was similar to like a Rollins leap that we saw this year where, and Rollins was efficient last year. It's not like he wasn't, but just in the sense that it went from a guy that you're like, okay, this is much more secondary, back of your mind option rather than a primary guy. And then he became a primary ball handler, an initiator, an off the dribble scorer, and did so much more of that. And really you started to see much more of an offensive ceiling than you did in year one. And that's just very intriguing to me because it's kind of nice that we've seen him do both things. Like the first year he was more off ball, just doing things whenever he was asked to. And he was, again, he wasn't as efficient, wasn't great at doing that, but then he was able to focus more on defense, had a really good defensive year, which I'll get into in a little bit, but kind of was just more of that like role player type of guard. And then in his sophomore year became that primary option type of guard. So we've kind of seen him do both. I'll get into his strengths and stuff in a second, but give me like your initial thoughts on Philon before I get into kind of the weeds with everything he's good at, and we can get into the weaknesses as well.
Real quick, do you have a comp for him? I'm always interested in other people's comps for Philon.
Okay, so
or just other places. Yeah.
It's all for me. It's been one of them. One of them I had originally was like a better version of Dennis Schroeder. Like he's small. He's not like a super, he's more smooth and he's more kind of controlled, like get to your spots and stuff and get to the rim. But I don't know, that was kind of one that I thought of, and he's kind of pesky. He's better than, I think he's going to end up better than Schroeder, I think. But the other one I have is Ryan Rollins, where I just see him as like, again, that crafty, controlled guard who has some solid defensive ability. I think Rollins is a better defender, but Philon still has some defensive ability. But like, and I guess they're both kind of combo guards, can play on or off the ball. Those are kind of two that come to mind. And obviously, I love Rollins' game, so I see Philon play a similar style, and I've always been a big fan of him.
So, like from just what you've said in a group chat and about that comp, I like that comp. So you're a believer in the defense, like you think he's going to be a solid defender at the next level?
I
And
do
that's
because now if he ever becomes a star offensive guard, I could see it being the defense definitely falling off. It kind of is what we saw in college with him, where freshman year, I mean, I watched his freshman year stuff versus his sophomore year stuff. Like I went through and watched a ton of possessions from both years. It is a massive difference. Like freshman year, there are a lot of possessions where you were like, wow, this like that's a good defender right there. And it wasn't just, oh, he's average, he can hold his own. It was, wow, he's legitimately good. Sophomore year, it was a lot of this is legitimately bad. It went from, again, legit bad to legit, or it's legit good to legit bad. And I think a lot of that is just the role he had to play offensively naturally hurt his defense a little bit. And I think we even, again, going off the Rollins comp, I think we saw that with Rollins a little bit this year, where as he had to do more and more offensively, the defense took a little bit of a dip, and there were more bad moments than we saw in other, previously when he could kind of focus more on that end, and that was more of his identity was being a defensive guy. I do believe that at the next level, as long as he's not in like a primary role where he's a number one or number two option, which he might get to eventually, but I just think at least to start, like he'll be able to focus a little bit more on defense.
that's fair. Yeah, I think the defense really scared me off with him, and I think to go along with that, when you weigh in at 175, what was it, 6'2" and a half, 6'3", like
Yeah.
that would be the worrisome part. And then again, like for someone like him, it's tough to say for me, like, okay, the idea is for you to not be, on ball a ton initially, which is, you don't want to, hand him the keys right away. But I don't know. I don't know if I see the off ball value like as clear as others do with him. And that's not to say like, he's not a good 3-point shooter, but like most of his value for me is just going to be on ball. I don't know if you feel the same, but like that's kind of where I was at with him as far as like him being used initially as like a secondary creator on, second side action, stuff like that, versus coming right out the gate being like at the very least an initiator of offense where I feel he has the most value. But then again, like I don't think, kind of like we talked about last week, with Yaxel, and like almost, not exactly the same, but like I don't know if you get the most out of him from doing that. It's a tough like in between thing with a lot of these guys in this range.
Yeah, I do think his best stuff is on ball for sure, but
Right,
and that's I think the case with most any guard who's going to go this high. Besides maybe, I mean, even Burries though he has a lot of like he's not a total off ball guy, but
right.
any guard that's going this high, most of their stuff is on ball because that's obviously what gives them the higher ceiling and the high like the advanced scoring ability compared to guys that are more off ball. But I just like that we've seen kind of both compared to other guys where you haven't and you don't know if they can be in more of an off ball role. And I just think Philon, I can see him just being a winning player in either role where you could again, similar to Rollins, you can put the ball in his hands. He can run offense. He can get some buckets off the dribble and play make and do all that, get to the rim. Or he can be more of a secondary guy off ball, hit some catch and shoot threes if he needs to, or be a secondary creator. And then again, in that scenario where maybe he doesn't have the ball as much and stuff, he's focusing more on defense. And again, compared to other guards in this class, we've seen more of a sample of him being good on defense than them. Where now,
Yeah,
again,
I think that's fair.
in fairness to them, they have been guys like Acuff Wagler have been the main guy since they stepped on campus. Again, Philon got a whole year where he wasn't, and that helped him focus on defense. So, again, fairness to them for like, I'm not going to say that he automatically is just a better defender because of that, but there's at least a sample of it. And I like that we've seen a sample of both of this from him. And I just can picture him in multiple different roles, which intrigues me because I just like having that versatility and someone that I'm not like, we have to give this guy the ball and give him the keys for him to be successful at the next level. It's like, no, I can see a different type of role for him as well. And yeah, there's a lot of things I've been intrigued by with him basically since, I mean, I knew of him last year, but I really started to watch him more this year, obviously.
I mean, I think like the idea is there for him defensively too. Like not only does he have that freshman year of like you said, like kind of not the primary guy on offense, and then just good defensive tape to back that up, or at least solid, right? 6'3" is legit. 6'6" wingspan is also solid. And I think the thing for him is, I mean, everyone's saying, but he's got to add a little bit of weight to be able to defend real guards, at least defend off ball guards at a decent level, and just being able to be better at taking contact at the point of attack as far as like screens, navigating screens, and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think you can at least see the vision with him being like this. Again, not all encompassing, because then he's still at whatever we're taking him 10, right? Like I don't know how high the ceiling is, but I think you can at least see the idea with him for sure on both ends.
Yeah, and to be clear, if he is going to be a decent, good defender at the next level, I mean, he's got to put on at least 15, 20 pounds to get to that level. Like it's not 175 is not going to cut it. 180 is not going to cut it. He's going to have to bulk up. That there's no question about that. But I do think he can do that. I do think in the NBA, that's like, I don't know. To me, if that's one of your bigger issues, I'm like, I just trust that these guys are going to hit the weight room, put on some weight. But to be fair, he has been at this weight for about a year now, so he hasn't really put on weight in a while. It's been a little bit, and people were kind of expecting him maybe to do that this year, and he didn't. So maybe, I mean, it is a valid concern. I'm just kind of
Bones plays at. Like what is Bones Highland listed at?
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, it says 169, which would be absolutely insane.
Yeah, 170. I see. So
that's like, I mean, yeah. But I think the height and wingspan is like, it's decent, man. Like, I think there could be something there defensively, at least to the level where like, okay, he's not getting picked on, right? And that's like what you absolutely don't want. And I think if you can get to a point with him where like he's not being brought in every action and trying to have to just like run through a bunch of ball screens, off ball screens, stuff like that, I think you're happy with that defensively. You're not looking for him to be like first team all defense, because I don't think it'll get there. But like, you just want it to complement the offense enough for him to stay on the floor.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be someone that's in any way known for his defense. I just think, if he can be someone that's an average defender, and then
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
The offense is at a really good level, then obviously then he's going to be a good player, and he's going to be an impactful player, and that's ultimately what you're looking for. So just to go through some of his main strengths here, the number one thing that I love about him is his paint scoring. He's really good at getting into the lane and finishing, and he's like super crafty, super smooth. As I mentioned, kind of similar to Rollins in that way, where I always feel like he's controlled going to the basket. He's not going to, and what I love about Philon, he's got the combination of original burst to get past his guy and that quickness. But then once he gets past his guy and into the lane, he slows it down, and he becomes much more controlled and much more like change of direction, and has these moves in his bag that can just like help him finish with craft and everything. So he has a really good combination of those two things, where he's not out of control in any way, but he does have good burst and have good kind of pop, and then is able to slow it down once he gets into the lane. He was 84th percentile in rim attempts per 100 possessions and 84th percentile in rim finishing, 67% at the rim, which is a fantastic number for someone his size. And he's really, really good, like almost better at finishing with his left than his right, and going left than going right. And he's a right-handed player. It's crazy, like watching just his rim finishes. It's unbelievable how many of them are with his left hand and how many were going left. He's just phenomenal at using both hands. So that's nice to never have to worry about that, because some guys, I mean, you force them one way and they're easily containable, but he is definitely not one of those guys. He also has a really good float game. I think he was 50%. Yeah, 50% on floaters in his 2 collegiate seasons. So when he's not able to get all the way to the rim, he's got some nice touch on the little floater. Doesn't have a ton, like mid-range game, not a ton. He played at Alabama, who is notoriously analytical and doesn't take mid-range shots. So, and I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't need a guy to be a good mid-range shooter too much in the modern NBA, but I like that he has that floater at least, so that it's not all just either right at the rim or threes. There is a little bit of in between where he's able to kind of stop on a dime and shoot a floater. And then, yeah, the 3-point shooting drastically improved, where he went from 31.5% freshman year to 40% his sophomore year. Pull-up threes improved from 32% to 38% and much higher volume. He took 34 pull-up threes his freshman year and 103 his sophomore year. That's where, again, this offensive ceiling started to come into play, where it was like, okay, this guy's not just a secondary off-ball scorer. He can do it on ball and be a primary guy. And catch and shoot threes also improved drastically, 32% to 40%, has a pretty quick, smooth release, and just someone you can't leave open. On unguarded catch and shoot threes, he shot 44% during his 2 seasons. So definitely someone that has proven to be a good shooter, especially when left open. And yeah, then the playmaking I mentioned is another, strength, just like putting the ball in his hands and letting him go make plays. Pick and roll, he's very good out of the pick and roll, and that increase in his role this season got him so many more reps as a playmaker, ball handler, running the pick and roll, where he became so much more comfortable with it. I know he had a very high turnover rate his freshman year when he was running pick and roll, lowered that drastically his sophomore year, and had a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and definitely just improved drastically as a playmaker as well. And another thing that, again, I think got him high up on draft boards was the playmaking, and people realizing, okay, this guy can score with the ball in his hands, playmake with the ball in his hands. He can be an initiator at the next level. And yeah, so those are all the things that definitely intrigue me with him, in addition to the freshman year tape defensively. Anything you want to touch on that I just mentioned?
What would you say about an Emmanuel Quickly player comp? Like, what would Philon need to do to not be better than that, but I guess be better than that? Like, where would he be better at than current Emmanuel Quickly?
I think so. I'm trying to think, is Quickly does he shoot more mid-range shots, or is he all pretty much threes and layups?
I don't know. I don't want to give you an answer on that, but for me, it feels like the pace thing that you brought up made me think Quickly plays with a lot of pace, especially when, he's in the pick and roll, getting into the lane, snaking some of those, and just, playing a little herky-jerky almost. But I think, just off the top of my head, I think the creation stuff that Philon brings probably makes him have a higher ceiling. And if he's going to be on ball a bit more than Quickly has been, who's been used as almost like a obviously not primary initiator. I don't know. That was just a comp that I came up with. What would a median outcome for him be?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good middle level, where it's not his absolute ceiling, but it's definitely, his floor is worse than Emmanuel Quickly. I think that's a good one. And then Quickly still has, there's always the questions of, is he, with his size and everything, and there's going to be those questions with Philon until he puts on more weight. So I definitely think that's a pretty solid one.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I think the creation stuff that he brings is what's most intriguing. Okay, if he ends up being someone who's given the keys to, right? Someone that is just able to handle the ball a ton for a year or whatever it may be. And he's able to create offense and legit create offense for himself and others. I think that's where you can get to unlocking his ceiling. And then that's when you get the best version of him eventually, down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much agree. And then weaknesses, we went through some of these already, but the weight and the strength, got to put on some pounds and become stronger if he's going to really translate, both for offense and defense. The sophomore year defensive tape was not good, and definitely needs to improve on that if he's going to really be impactful at the next level. And again, that goes, hand in hand with the added strength and stuff. If he can add strength and become a little bit bigger, should help him defensively. And then I guess you could question, if you want to nitpick, you could question, like, is he that good of a shooter? Because this was a big leap this past season. Prior to this was low 30s percentage wise. I think he was the same in college, low 30s, and has never been an elite free throw shooter. He's more high 70s. So you could nitpick that and say, is he going to be a really good shooter at the next level or just an average shooter at the next level? Because the thing is, if he's only an average shooter at the next level, let's say, even if he's 35 to 37%, if he's that plus remains small and not good on defense, and like, that's kind of the recipe for him to disappoint. Where
yes, for sure. Like the shooting has to translate. The shooting has to carry over for sure.
Yeah.
So, and volume too. Like, he's got to keep the 3-point rate where it's at. If not, continue to push it up. Like, he's got to continue to get to the line. All that stuff that makes him like a really good creator. He's got to carry that stuff over to like be, you know what I mean? Like you said.
Oh yeah, to be worth a top 10 pick. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not worried about him being a bad shooter by any means. It's just, again, the difference between being 36% and close to 40% is a pretty big one. And again, same with the volume and everything. He really increased the volume this past season, which is what stood out to me, is that, went from 3.4 attempts per game freshman year to 6.2 sophomore year. And then the huge increase in percentage. So, and it looks good. It's not like there's a hitch in his shot or anything. So I'm not really worried about it, but that is definitely something that if you wanted to nitpick and say, I just think there's a chance he's only an average shooter, and that could definitely cap his ceiling and make him a disappointment if that's what happens. So not too worried about it, but yeah.
Was he the one who people kind of, I think there was like a tweet that was going around about his jumper. Was that him?
I didn't see it, but maybe.
Okay.
What were they saying about it?
That there was like potentially a slight hitch in it, or maybe that was like too far out in front. I don't know. People turn into like mechanics masters at the combine.
I'm not a mechanics master, so like maybe I'm wrong about it. When I watch a shot, I'm like,
there's just a ton of nitpick right now. I hate looking at that stuff anyway.
Yeah. Like, I watch his shot, and to me, I'm like, that looks pretty smooth to me. Like, he's got a pretty good release. Everything looks fine. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. I mean, when someone has the numbers he has as far as like 3-point rate, what he's doing off the dribble, like, it's very rare that they have like such an awkward jumper that it, doesn't translate. So I don't think that'll be a worry.
All right. So our verdict, give me if the Bucks are at pick 10 and they get Labaron Philon, give me your grade for it. And you can give me one. I whenever I'm doing my grades, when I'm writing these articles for Twitter and stuff on these guys, I do a grade if they're keeping Giannis and grade if they're not, because that does matter.
Okay. Ooh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I think it would be a B either way, man. I think like that's a B pick regardless of if Giannis is there or not. Maybe that's wrong in what we just talked about, as far as like, you kind of want him to handle the ball like a little bit at least, right? And I don't know how many on-ball reps you get with not only Rollins back there, but KPJ maybe, and then what Giannis is going to do. So yeah, I don't know that one. Maybe I have to walk that one back.
So if they're not keeping Giannis, I have it as an A-, and if they're keeping Giannis, I have it as a B+. And the slight decrease if they're keeping Giannis, just because I know he's going to need a little bit of time to add some weight, but I still think either way it would be a really good pick. I think the talent is good enough that I'm willing to overlook some of the size issues right now. And I know, like, if we're projecting this and going, okay, Philon and Rollins backcourt, yes, it is small, and I get that, and it's not an ideal size. But to me, Rollins always has played bigger than his size. I think we both agree on that. And if you could, their goal, I think, at some point quickly here is to add someone with size at the 3. So if you add someone with size at the 3, and again, in this scenario, we're keeping Giannis and stuff, because if we're not keeping Giannis, it doesn't really matter what it looks like right now. But if we're keeping Giannis at the 4, you have a 5, Turner or whoever, and then you get someone with size at the 3, like, that can definitely make up for your lack of size in the backcourt. And I think both of those guys kind of play a little bit bigger than their size. So I'm not really worried about that too much. I know it's not ideal, but to me, the talent is enough that I'm like, just give it to me and we'll make it work. And I don't know, having another, like I said, his comp to me is kind of similar to Rollins. Having a second Ryan Rollins, hey, sign me up, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the cool thing about having Ryan too. Is like you feel pretty comfortable regardless of if this is a point guard, if this is a two guard, if this guy
And
is going to play on the ball. Like I think that's the luxury of Ryan Rollins. Like really, showing what he could do is like, man, you feel really good about whoever you slot next to him. Honestly.
and to me, again, because I do believe in both the on-ball and off-ball stuff with Philon, like to me, that's an advantage with Philon too, is you can swap these guys in and out from 1 and 2 or whatever you need to do with them. If Rollins needs to have the ball a little bit more, he can do that. Philon can play off ball. If Philon needs the ball a little bit more, he can do that. Rollins can play off ball. Like they both are interchangeable in those spots and can play off of each other because they both are versatile in that, being able to play on or off the ball. So that to me has been one of the main selling points to me as far as a Bucks fit has been. And I guess you could say this about any guard they bring in, is I want them to be able to play on or off the ball. I don't want someone that needs the ball to be effective all the time, Kevin Porter Jr. But I just, I don't want someone like that. So I definitely want versatile guys that you can plug into a variety of different roles. And that's something we love about Rollins. And whoever, if we do go with a smaller guard, I want them to at least be able to play more often.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
So, all right. That is our overview on Mr. Labaron Philon. And now we move to your guy.
Give it to us. Yes, sir. Cam Carr, man. Let's quickly run through the measurements from the combine. So he measured in at 6'4" and a half, a wingspan of 7 feet, and a standing reach of 8'8". I think on draft day, if this is correct, he's going to be 21 and a half. So a little older. I think he's technically like a redshirt sophomore, if I'm not mistaken. But this year at Baylor, he put up 18.9 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 2.2 stocks. So, I mean, he had a real breakout year coming from Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he was coming from.
Yep.
Alongside Tonde Yesufu, too, who's, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that who it was, right?
Yes, it was.
Alongside a guy who was supposed to be a pretty big time scorer, Cam Carr, like really had a strong coming out year. So I don't know, man. Like I've been on Cam Carr for a minute now. Again, I talked about it like Class Pod. I mentioned him earlier in the season. And like he's got legit size, dude. He's like the prototypical 2. I think he probably doesn't have the upside of a lot of these guys we're going to talk about not only today, but like I think he's like just got like really, really good role player written all over him. And I like at 10, I'm fine with that, man. Like you see how much right now that role players are impacting these playoff games. I'm like perfectly fine taking someone that you are unsure like where the ceiling is, or just like, hey, this guy's never going to be an all-star. I think you can live with that at 10. Maybe that's just me, but like but that's because I do feel really good about where Cam Carr, like where I feel about him as a like legit role player on a winning team.
I'm kind of surprised you don't think he has more upside. I'm not saying he's got superstar upside or anything, but I do think just because, and I know this stuff can be overrated and this doesn't automatically mean you have upside, but just the physical tools, like the combination of length and athleticism to me is like, damn, like it always opens your eyes.
For sure. And I think maybe like I downplayed it a bit, right? But like I'll put it this way. Like, I'm not drafting him to be an all-star. I'm not drafting him to do like, if he becomes that and that's where it takes him in, his second contract is, 6th, 7th year, that's where he gets more comfortable doing that stuff. But like, I'm not drafting him for what he does on the ball, man. Like that's not, I'm drafting him because like you said, like the physical tools are real. I think the defense is going to translate, if not, immediately, very soon. I think the shooting, I think he's like a legit shooter. And I think the physical stuff kind of plays into that a bit, where I think he can even add more as a shooter, whether that be, off the dribble on ball stuff, but like maybe even becoming more of a movement shooter too. And like, doing a lot of the stuff we see AJ doing. I'm not saying he's to the level of that as a shooter, but like I think he could potentially be there because I do believe that much in his shooting. So again, that's not to say I don't think, he has the stuff to be that one day like an all-star type guy, on ball type guy, creating his own shots. But I'm drafting him to be like an elite role player.
Yeah, and again, for those that haven't watched him, don't know about him, I mean, like you said, over 7 foot wingspan at basically 6'5". He's only like 190 pounds, so he's pretty skinny right now, but
I think
crazy
he measured
length.
in at 184, which was a little heavier than I was expecting. But yeah, 184 honestly isn't bad for what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's right. Because I don't know why I said 190, but I remember they were thinking maybe he was going to be closer to 175, and then he was 185. Yes. So, yeah, that was actually pleasantly surprising. But the length is insane. I mean, just his arms are so long, and obviously that helps on both ends, and is something that I think modern NBA or teams in the modern NBA are coveting, is these long, athletic wing/guards. Like he can kind of be both. But yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the numbers here. 93rd percentile scoring out of spot ups. He was 99th percentile scoring on cuts. So he's really good cutting to the basket and then finishing. And 86th percentile scoring in isolation. Can run the pick and roll a little bit. Was, I think, 55th, 60th percentile. No, 73rd percentile running the pick and roll. So he was, can do that as well. And
a good amount of possessions, like,
50
pick and roll ball handler.
He was, let me look at this, pick and roll ball handler.
They had it at 273.
201 possessions I have as him being the pick and roll ball handler.
Okay. Oh, so my bad. This was scoring and passing. So I don't know if that might be different than what.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it might be. But yeah, I mean, over 200 possessions as a pick and roll ball handler. So definitely can have the ball in his hands and do that stuff. He can be a slasher. He can be a shooter. I think his movement shooting is at least decent right now. I mean, he shot, I'm looking at it, 35% off screens. And I mean, some of those spot ups and stuff are off movement. Overall on, so catch and shoot, he was 41% from 3 off the catch, 33% off the dribble. And that 41% off the catch is on 123 attempts. So, I mean, yeah, with his length and his athleticism to also be a good shooter, and then you obviously have the defensive potential when you have those physical tools. Like there's a lot of 3-and-D potential with him on the wing, and anytime you have a guy like that, they're going to be coveted by NBA teams because that is obviously a coveted NBA prototype, is those 3-and-D wings with length. And so I do think the upside, like a little bit more upside, is there than just being this 3-and-D guy. Because yeah, he can be a slasher. He can be more of a play finisher. He's really good in transition. I don't know. There's a lot of things I like about him. I do wish he was better as like a playmaker. Looking at those. Yeah, go ahead.
That's just like where you're going to not lose him. But like, if you're looking for that, like I said, and maybe that's what I was like speaking towards when saying like, he's not going to have the highest ceiling. And I just think, like it's almost not the complete opposite, but like completely different than someone like Dalen Swain, who we talked about a ton, who really creates for themselves at the bucket, gets to the free throw line a ton, creates for others, rim assist, all stuff like that. Like you're just not going to get a ton of that, or just haven't seen a ton from Carr yet.
Yeah, he had 90 assists, 81 turnovers this past season. Not that he can't create ever, but yeah, it's just more of it's not his primary thing is putting the ball in his hands and saying, go create offense for us. But yeah, I mean, a lot of intriguing stuff with him. Shot 68% at the rim. And I mean, that 3-point stuff is on good volume. I mean, 37% on 6 attempts per game. Like this isn't some fake shooting or anything. I mean, this is high volume, good percentages. Shot a lot of contested ones because he was one of the main guys at Baylor, and shot just as well on guarded catch and shoots as he did on unguarded. Actually shot better. I mean, he was 41% when guarded, 92 of his 123 were guarded, and he shot 41% on those, and then 31% or 31 were unguarded, and he shot 39%. So good on both, which is always a good sign to me of someone that is like a legit shooter. You can hit him when you're guarded, you can hit when you're unguarded. You don't need space, you don't need time. And looking at his shot too, he has a pretty quick release and stuff. It's obviously a high release with how long his arms are. So definitely helps him out there. Similar in that sense to like a Mikal Bridges, just in how his shot looks a little bit, where it's hard to block that shot, you know?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's a solid comp for the shot. I like I said, man, I think the shot is the real deal. I think like that's the sell for me is I think he's going to be a high level shooter. A good, or I don't know if it's a good comp, but a comp that I just kind of took a dive into and that you were helping me with as far as the numbers was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And I wanted to just kind of match him up with Nickeil Alexander-Walker because Nah is a guy who broke out as far as a creator very late in his career or later, right? Like I think Nah is in like year 7 now, 6 or 7. And he's kind of gone from like being very solid role player to elite role player to now, like he was the best player on that Hawks team, right? So like his ascension as that could be one or could be like Carr, right? So I looked at, like you said, Carr's pick and roll ball handling as a scorer and passer. He was at 0.982 points per possession, which is in the 72nd percentile, compared to Nah in college, where he was at 0.937 points per possession, which is in the 72nd percentile as well. Both very similar in possessions. Carr had 273 possessions there versus Alexander Walker, who was at 300 possessions. So Nah came out as maybe a little more polished ball handler and someone who was a little bit more comfortable handling the ball. But like, I think he could take a similar path as far as like, this is going to be like a, second contract type breakout if it ever happens, as far as like being a on-ball creator. I don't think anyone's looking at Nah as like some high level, like 1A type ball creator or on-ball creator, but like that's, where this could come in for Carr. So again, like I think until then he has the tools and, he's shown stuff already to where he can step in and be like a high level role player pretty quickly.
So I've seen people that, and these aren't smart people, but I've seen people, in my opinion, where they compare him to, they're like, the people that are out on him, the people that don't like him go, okay, he's 22. He isn't really a playmaker. He can't do a ton with creating his own offense. Like he's not really an off the dribble scorer, especially in the mid range or anything. I mean, I was just looking at the numbers. He was 10 for 34 on dribble jumpers from 2. So, in between area, 10 for 34, that's 29%. Obviously not his strong suit. So there's people that go, okay, yeah, he's got the athleticism and the length, but he isn't, and he's already 22 and he's still got those holes in his game. Does that worry you? I guess is my question. Okay, and when I say the dumb people, I'm saying that they were comparing him to MarJon Beauchamp. I saw people saying this is just MarJon Beauchamp. I'm like, okay, he's more athletic than MarJon, and he's a much more proven shooter than MarJon, which are two pretty important things.
If MarJon could shoot like Cameron Carr, I think he would still be in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so outside of that, again, like, man, hold on, I gotta look up the block numbers real quick.
Was MarJon that athletic coming out of?
He wasn't, man.
I didn't think he was. Like I've never, and even like in the NBA, I just never looked at him like he was this.
No, like uber athletic. Yeah, like
know.
No, man. He was never that. Cam Carr is dunking on guys from the free throw line, like pump fake, one dribble on your head. But like Cam Carr, the rebounding stuff is 17.6% defensive rebound percentage. That's 87th percentile. The block is 3.9% block percentage. That's 97th percentile. Like, I think there's stuff there on the defensive end that like you were never getting that from someone like MarJon, and even like, I don't know, that like that, the rebounding stuff, the block percentage stuff, what I think he can become as an on-ball defender, that is way more towards someone like like I said, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, even if you want to say like a smaller version of Jaden McDaniels, as far as like, okay, this guy, again, like he's probably not good enough to be, he won't ever be good enough to be like the second best player or maybe even the third best player, but like he can find his way into a starting lineup on a really competitive team because of that stuff. And that's even if the on ball creation doesn't come around, because I believe in the shot so much. So I don't know that the Marjan comp, that's when I haven't heard that one kind of broke my heart, man.
I didn't realize the measurables were pretty close. Where
Were they?
Marjan, I mean,
Well,
I
I
guess
see.
Marjan's a little
Now
taller. He's 6'7".
I
Like
gotta look up Marjan's vertical, man.
Marjan's wingspan is 7'1". He's 6'7".
That's +4. What? No, that's not. That's off. 31-inch standing vertical, 37-inch max vert. What was Carr at?
Was he 40?
Yeah, I think he broke 40 on max vert.
Yeah, 42.5.
Come on, man.
38
Marjan,
standing vert.
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous stuff, dude.
Marjan ain't reaching these heights, man.
No, he's not doing that, man. No, but like honestly though, like I think even at this point, Cam is a little bit more of a polished. Polished is a bad word. I think he's flashed a bit more on ball at Baylor than Marjan ever did. Whether that be in the G League or wherever that was, I don't think that Marjan flashed as. I hate even having to do this, but like you know
I saw two people like both say it, and I was like, there's multiple people that are thinking Marjan with this guy. Like I just don't see that at all. And
yeah,
I think it was just, again, all they were talking about was similar measurables, and they're 22 and have some, weaknesses with on ball creation and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't make him Marjan Beauchamp, but
yeah. No, I mean, I think like, again, for me, I do truly believe in the shot. I believe that he can become like a high level shooter. And then on the opposite side, like I think he's going to be someone who's going to rebound the ball really well for his position. He's going to, rebound above his weight at his position. He's going to provide you with the on-ball defense isn't all the way there yet. I think he has a little bit to go as far as like screen navigation, just becoming a little stronger to be able to eventually defend like true wings, and maybe even, I think he has a speed to defend some guards. I don't know if you're sticking him on Tyrese Maxey. I don't think you're doing that, but like, I think he has a little ways to go on ball. But like, I think as a secondary defender, he like blocks shots at a really high level for being a two guard. So like, he has an interesting defensive profile for being his size, his wingspan, stuff like that. So I just think all that stuff would be like, I'm gonna draft him with a floor of being a very solid role player with upside to become potentially like an elite role player, and maybe even add some on ball stuff later down the road.
Yeah. And I mean, for the defense, it's similar to Philon. It's just about adding a little bit of weight and strength, and you assume that these guys will do that pretty quickly in the NBA. But just looking at, the combine was so good for him. That's what's gotten him rising so much. But he was number 2 in lane agility time, number 2 in standing vertical leap, number 3, tied for second in max vertical leap. I mean, he was like, again, the combination of, the leap plus the speed plus the length is just, it's pretty scary.
What's the grade? What's your grade if the Bucks take him?
So I was just going to get to that. So mine would be, I haven't officially, like with the Philon one, I had it in front of me because I had written an article on it. But for me, if you're keeping Giannis, I still would put it probably A minus, and if A minus, B plus, and if you're not keeping him, A minus. Like I like him. I like him in both scenarios, because I do think there is upside. Like I'm not looking at it as, I don't know. I think there's upside, and so I'm willing to take him if we're going into a rebuild, and if we're not, I still think he fits a role right now, and I just think that archetype next to Giannis could be really, really cool.
So like, I think in a world where they trade Giannis is the one world where I could say like, okay, like reaching for him at 10, I understand going somewhere else because of like the upside, like I said, not being there compared to other guys, which again, like I like him as an upside play, I think he fits really well with what Jenkins does defensively, offensively. I think he fits like the profile of a Jenkins draft pick. So again, I wouldn't be mad, but I would understand them going a different way should they move Giannis.
Yeah, and it depends. I mean, it depends who you take the guy over as well. Obviously,
yeah.
If someone falls and there's maybe one of those top guards, again, if you're not keeping Giannis and one of those top guards falls, even if you are, I guess, but if those top guards, someone falls and you're like, this guy couldn't, that's superstar potential right there. Maybe you go that route. But I guess I'll ask you, because some people will listen to this and be like, why is this guy, why are they talking about him with the Bucks at 10? And why would you want to take him at 10? Because he's projected in these mocks sometimes around 20, even lower than that. I mean, I think we both have talked about, and I agree that he's going to be, I think, a lottery pick by the time the draft rolls around. And after this combine, I mean, he's risen pretty quickly already. There's always examples of players like this who have the great athleticism, great length, great combine that, and again, this archetype that teams like, they rise as the draft approaches. And we've seen it with Jalen Williams. We saw it with Cedric Howard last year, where they go from late first to all of a sudden they're at, just inside of 20. And then by the time the draft rolls around, they're going in the lottery. And it's like, I think he's going to be one of those guys. And I just think there's a chance that we could make a trade, and we can talk about this as the draft gets closer. I'm sure we'll talk about trade scenarios and stuff, but there's definitely a chance you could try to trade back a few spots and still get him. I mean, it's not like you have to take him at 10, but if they really like him and they're just like, they're not trading back, and he just happens to be one of the best guys on the board and they like him, I mean, I have no problem taking him at 10. I don't think that's a huge reach by any means where I'd have a problem with it.
I think too, like you said, the wings rising throughout the draft process is pretty real. And I think in this area of guys, there's a lack of wings, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
So, right. So, I mean, I think, you could get to a point, the board could fall a certain way, 1 through 9, where you're like, hey, he's the best guy available for us. And, you're going to live with that pick because of the positional value you might get and, just how 1 through 9 fall. So, yeah, I mean, I'm never afraid. I mean, these guys took AJ Johnson 24 minutes, so I'm sure they're not afraid of their boards either. So,
yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that early on got me kind of intrigued with him. Was I was looking at our range in that 10 area, and I was like, there's not many wings. And I was kind of looking, going down, and that's where Swain came in, and that's where Cameron Carr came in. They were both in that 20s, but I was like, for anyone that needs a wing, they're gonna be intriguing because they both have upside, and they both have, like, I think that they're kind of the next best wings available. And with wings just being so prevalent and so coveted in the modern NBA, I'm just like, I don't see those guys falling that much, or I don't see there being that big of a gap in the draft where there's no wings taken. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been one too to like say like, oh, don't go reaching for a wing, but like, I mean, this team is bone dry as far as wings go. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, I think Carr plays the two. I would want him to play the 2 on the Bucks. That's where I think he could best fit in, because I would like someone bigger at the 3. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's tough to call because like there's mocks or big boards that have them in the lotto. There's big boards that have them closer to the late end of first. So I don't know.
And every year you got to remember, like, where guys are mocked does not always mean much, because if two teams like a guy, and if 2 out of 30 teams like a guy, and they're both in that same range, and they find out that the guy's going to get taken because they want to get their guy and they like him. And I mean, I'm not saying I don't know who liked him, but like last year, who was it? Hansen Yang, whatever his name was. Yeah, he was supposed to go in the second late, like in the 40s, and he goes whatever it was, 16th or 17th. It's like, you never know with this. All of a sudden, people get scared they're going to lose their guy, and they just take him. So I don't think it's crazy at all. And again, with a guy like Carr, who this is not some bad prospect that we're reaching on. To me, that would be kind of similar if they took Nate Ament. We'll get to Nate Ament at some point, but if they took Nate Ament, like, to me, that's just a reach where it's like, man, he's just not a good player right now. And you're reaching for a guy that is so far away. this is like, you might be reaching slightly, but you're getting a guy that has some proven skills, and obviously the athleticism, the potential is really good. And I don't know. I just think there's a lot to like.
Real quick on Carr, if I'm not mistaken, so he's a redshirt sophomore, but like he didn't even play a ton in his redshirt freshman season at Tennessee. Like it wasn't. Hold on, I have to make sure that's right.
I mean, he played 102 total minutes his first 2 years.
Yeah, so I mean, like it's not like this guy is even a finished product yet. And I know that can, people can look at the age and just say, oh, he's done growing as like a player. Like I don't believe that to be the case with Carr, and I think he's still got room to grow, and that's why like I won't officially like rule out the on-ball stuff, but I mean even other stuff. Like I think he has room to grow as an on-ball defender, as a shooter, whatever it may be. So I don't think he's finished.
Yeah. All right. That covers two guys that we both like for this draft. We'll get to other guys as we continue. There'll be some guys we like, some guys we don't like. There's not a ton of guys I hate in this range, but I mean, obviously everyone kind of knows that I'm not, and a lot of people aren't a fan of Nate Ament. There's a couple other guys I'm not thrilled about, but like there's not a ton of ways to me that they can screw this up, but I know the one that they can screw it up with is going to happen. So I'm already preparing myself. We're going to do all this and talk about all these guys, and we know what's going to happen. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, follow myself at Nathan Marzian, Stev at Bucks_breakdown, the podcast at BucksU_pod. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you in the next episode next week, covering some more draft prospects. Have a good one. And as always, Bucks and 6.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.